impact of climate change on islands such as ours, which are on the front line of the fury of climate change.
That view won't cut much ice with US President Donald Trump, who wants to leave the Paris Climate Pact. His advisors are in Bonn to promote what they call clean coal. But whether anyone here is prepared to listen to that message is doubtful. Matt McGrath, BBC News, Bonn.
Now, globally, just 3 in 10 scientists are women. UNESCO has compiled a report pinpointing where women thrive in this sector and where they're underrepresented. Let's take a look now at some regional averages of female researchers around the world. Women represent 39.9% in the Arab states. Throughout North America and Western Europe, women make up 32.2% of scientists. In East Asia and the Pacific, the figure shows female representation at 22.9%, but in some countries, female scientists are in the majority. Myanmar is top of the class, according to stats gathered by UNESCO, with more than 85% of the field represented by women. Let's get more on all this from the BBC Science and Environment reporter Helen Briggs. Helen, the Myanmar figure, 85%, is that a reliable number?
Well, first of all, it is a very high figure. It really stands out. But UNESCO, who provided this data, they did say that they thought that it was probably an overestimate. There's a number of reasons behind that. First of all, the data supplied was quite old. Also, in Myanmar, women, by and large, do most of the teaching. And some universities there, they don't have facilities for research and experiments, so it's more of a teaching job. So women are overrepresented in that way. But also, the wages for scientists are quite low, so it tends to be that men don't stay in that profession if they have to provide for their families. They go on to do other things. So it's still very high, certainly more than 50%, and there's only really about a dozen countries where women outnumber men in the scientific workforce.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the stereotype is that men find sciences and maths and tech easier and naturally gravitate towards it. But I also know my Indian family, you know, in India and Asia generally, sciences is very prized as a degree and an area to go into as for work.
It is. If you look at the 50% above countries, some really interesting things stand out. So in Thailand, for example, it's 53.3%, big push there to improve scientific literacy, but also really good role models. So there's a member of the Thai royal family who's a chemist, so she's a great role model for women. And then places like Tunisia, again, they're bucking the trend, 54%, a lot of women there with PhDs, even in male-dominated areas like science and computing.
So does it seem that the situation is improving, or do we have no comparison here?
Well, I think generally we've seen an improvement across the board, very mixed picture. The things that are coming out really are that women have always played a big role in science. They haven't always been valued for that. Things like role models, mentoring is improving the situation, but still a good way to go.
And do we have any idea of dropout rates, for example, and, you know, whether women perhaps graduate, start working and then, you know, fall out once they have a family?
But it's the same with many other careers, really. So women are making inroads into doing the degrees, doing postgrads and going on to that. Once you get to the top of the profession, say professors, then, you know, it may be, say, 1 in 10 of professors are women. So that's where the real work is, to actually encourage women to stay in science and to get to these top roles.
Helen Briggs, thanks very much for that update. Very interesting. You can reach me on Twitter at Geetha Gurumurthy. I'm back in a few minutes. Stay with us.